Is it a struggle? Yes, we have to realize our strengths and our weaknesses. Hi, and welcome to Why Not? And I'm your host, Janice. Welcome back. Today we have a great, exciting show today. The topic is Let's Talk Adoption. And I have a great guest in my studio today. She's been here before on the show. Her name is Tracy Helm. She is the mother of 13 adopted children. Welcome to the show, Tracy.
Thanks, Janice. Nice to meet you.
And you're smiling so happy. I'm thinking you have no energy, but you're smiling on the show.
I'm so tired.
So let's tell the audience, if you don't mind, a little bit about yourself and how you started counting to 13. And that's not counting the husband, because Tola is 15 in the family.
Right. And he always likes to toss in that he's one of the kids too. And I'm like, oh no, you're my partner. You're up here with me on this side. So how did I get to 13? I ask that all the time because my plan was 2. Started out with, tried to go the traditional way. That wasn't working. And I miscarried twice, and God was all, hey, Tracy, I've got your kids over here. And I said, oh, okay, let's do it. And so way back in 98,
wow.
I went to Russia and adopted my first child. In fact, her adoption day is Monday.
Okay.
So Monday, it'll be 22 years that I've been doing this a long time.
So 21st, right? Okay.
Yeah, the 21st. So that's what started it. We went and adopted my daughter, Svetlana, and then in 2000 we went to Russia again, just to bring home a little boy. They were from the same city. They look an awful lot alike.
Okay.
And
so
then
infants?
Yes, Sveta was 10 months old.
Okay.
And Andy, when we got his referral, he was 11 months old, but Russia was redoing their system. And we actually had to go see him. And then it was a couple months before we could go back and get him. So I think it was 16 months when he finally came home.
Okay.
And that was it for 7 years. And then I went to Ethiopia with my girlfriend just to help her bring her son home. I even said that my life is perfect. I don't want anything about it to change. And that was in February of 2007. And by August of 2007, I had come home from Ethiopia with my own son.
Yes.
So that one was a fast one. And then after that, holy buckets, it went just kid. So between 2007 and 2013, we adopted 8 kids.
Right.
Yeah, so
I remember the Ethiopia trip because you actually asked me to go.
Yeah, yes. Hey, why don't you do it?
Yes.
I went, and then I came home with my son Mel. Well, his name is Melkamu. It means the good one, and he's so good. He's such a great guy.
Yeah, he's sweet. I remember him when he was little.
He's almost 17 now. So he came home in August of 2007. Brooke and Hannah were adopted in December of 2008, but came home in February of 2009. Then in 2010, I ended up in Ukraine, and I adopted a little girl that we were advocating for. She was a special needs kids. She has HIV. And then so 6 was great.
6 was great.
6, we had a really great groove going. We had 3 boys and 3 girls. I called us the International Brady Bunch. And they didn't understand the joke, so then I had to explain it, and then they're like, oh, that's funny. It's really funny raising foreign kids because they don't have, older foreign children. They don't have any of the, our...
Oh, right. They're not used to our...
our
culture and
the culture is it's hilarious.
Right.
We laugh about that all the time. And then I started advocating for the sibling group of 4 that I met. We weren't planning to adopt anybody else. And we started advocating for them. They were 16. Well, so when they came home, well, anyway, I ended up adopting them.
It was a
When they
set of
came,
4
yeah, it was a
siblings,
sibling
correct?
group of 4.
Yeah.
So we had adopted one kid, one kid, one kid, 2 kids, 1 kid, 4 kids. And then, so we adopted them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I was just meeting them and I had video and I have this on video. I asked, her name was Masha. She was 16. And I said, honey,
Okay.
what do you want for your future? And she said, well, I want, we had a translator. She said, I want to be a travel agent.
Mm.
And I said, honey, what do you want?
Mm.
And she says, I want a family.
Family.
And so I thought, well, I'll see if I can find a family for you. And God's all, it's you. Um, so
And
it
you
took
were working with
months.
another agency at that time, right? You were working or volunteering with an
No,
agency?
I was still just, sorry, I got a little drip. I was still working for the advocacy, the education and advocacy. So I would, it was a not-for-profit. None of us got paid. It was just a bunch of
Right.
moms around the country. And we spoke at orphan conferences. And in fact, I met the kids, the sibling group of 4. I was on a missions trip in Ukraine. I went to 6 different orphanages between Kyiv all the way down to Odessa.
Okay.
And back, we were there for like 2 weeks, and I'm sorry, I was delivering clothing and
Mm-hmm.
sports supplies and just a bunch of stuff that people had donated that they asked me to bring. They're like,
Okay.
we would like this stuff. Can you bring it to us? And we did. And so 6 months after that, my daughter Hannah kept taking, I had like this big map with all the places that I had gone and the pictures
Mm-hmm.
of the kids that I had met. And some
Okay.
of the kids had been adopted by other people. Like this one little
Mm-hmm.
boy, I had his x-rays. He needed a surgery. And I had
Okay.
his x-rays, and I was able to send those to this family who was interested in him, and they did bring him home.
Oh, they did.
So
Okay.
yeah. So I mean, it was incredible. There was this little girl that when I was adopting Dasha, we would visit the orphanage like every
Mm-hmm.
day. You get to go see her for 2 hours, and then you get on the bus and go back, and that was quite an ordeal because it'd be like 2 hours, 2 hours from my hotel to where she was. You get on
Mm.
the bus, go to the end of the bus route, you get on this other bus, you count 6 stops, and then you walk a mile. And then that's how
Wow.
you get to her orphanage. You did that every day. And well, there was this other little girl, and she was a cute little girl, but just not photogenic.
Mm.
Um,
Okay.
but she was still so cute and full of life, but you wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
know from her picture. Plus, they sometimes try to not take the pictures very well. Anyway, and I wrote about her because she was swimming in a bathtub because they had a bathtub outside and they were using it like a pool,
Oh,
and she
wow.
was
Okay.
swimming in the bathtub. And I used to have this blog, and I just wrote, this little girl, needs to. She's so delightful, and she needs to be, swimming in her own backyard with her parents watching her. And I wrote this, and
Mm.
people read it and they adopted her. And I
Wow.
was like, just because of what I had written.
Mm.
And I'm like, that was really impactful because you've got to be,
Very impactful.
and that's also why I always tell everything. I tell all of it, not just this happy stuff, the hard things that come with it. So
I think your 4 children, the 4 siblings from Ukraine, right? You had to
yeah,
stay over there for a little bit, a couple
yeah,
months, I thought,
yeah.
away from your husband, your family.
I was there for 2 months. Both
Right.
times I was in Ukraine, I was there for like 2 months,
Right.
um, which is interesting. We used to call it, and so you end up meeting other families who are there doing the same thing, and you kind of all, you learn the better, cheaper restaurants to eat at, and
Yeah.
and you talk, but then also you get to see all of these different apartments, and we used to call it international house hunters. And I had this one apartment that was so incredible. They're like, you won international house hunters, apartment edition. So, but I had a really bad one before that. Anyway, all of those things, I don't even remember where I was going with that, but that's
now, is it very expensive adopting overseas? And is it, I know you went to Ethiopia. Is that kind of dangerous going to some of those countries?
It was not dangerous when I was there. Now, well, here, way back when we were in Russia, they had bombed like one of the train stations.
Wow.
It was nearby. I think that was the second time I was there. One time when I was in Ukraine, when we were on that trip, just doing when I met my 4 kids, not knowing that's what was happening, they we couldn't get on the train for a while because they had bomb sniffing dogs. I don't know. You never think about it. Just these things kind of happen. In Ethiopia, our agency and the representatives, they take really good care of you. You're not just, running the streets being dumb Americans, right. Hopefully. So that helps. Right. I never felt unsafe anywhere that I was. And living in Ukraine, I mean, I think when you're somewhere for 2 months and you're renting an apartment, you're living there. But a lot of times, adoptive families aren't thinking this is adoption trip, or aren't thinking that, wow, this is it. You kind of go thinking you're going to be on vacation.
Okay.
And it's not vacation. And you're like, this is not vacation. I don't know this food. I don't get it. I don't even know what I'm asking for. And those things are all really hard, and the water smells bad and you can't brush your teeth with it. And
isn't that all peaches and cream and happy-go-lucky adopting, or even going through the process, or even in the countries?
We always think about someone else's culture shock, and you never think that you're going to have culture shock, or that I'm going to be like this great big baby crying that I can't get, that's when you start like really liking McDonald's. You're like, wow, there's a McDonald's, and there's no making it your way. It's like, this is the way it's made, because I'm like a 6-year-old ordering a McDonald's. I just want cheese and bread, but I'll eat a Big Mac. So it's like, I can order that and I know I'll eat it.
Something consistent across the world, at least.
Yeah, well, don't get a milkshake though. It is not a milkshake, but they have the old apple pies.
No.
The good fried ones. So anyway, it was just very funny. The little things that you don't think are going to affect you, and then you're like, oh, here's something that you wouldn't know. Apparently, Ukrainians hate themselves because you don't sleep on a mattress. Most of the beds I had were just a box spring.
Wow.
Do you know what it's like to sleep on a box spring? Like, why do you hate
2 months me? For 2 months.
Why do you hate me? It was terrible. But then I did get a different apartment with a really nice bed.
Okay. So you had to stay there for 2 months.
But also
you brought them home.
Pardon me?
But it's good you brought them home after all that mattresses. Yeah.
Well, and I was going to bring them home by myself. My husband came to court, and then he went home because he had to go back to work. And just my youngest one was, it was just too much. It was too much. She couldn't, she was 6. It doesn't matter that things are going to be better and that somebody loves you. And that, if this is still, I don't know you, I don't know what you're saying, I don't understand what's happening. I didn't, they're just told this is going to happen. You're going to go with this person now. And
now, how long did you get to meet the children before you brought them home or decided? I mean, I know like adoption here, typically they want you to go through the foster care system, which we can talk about that because you have 3 kids from the foster care also you adopted. But you have to go through a longer process here, maybe a year or 2, and you get to know the kids. But is that the same when it's international?
Somewhat, sometimes. Now, like my Ethiopian kids, they were adopted before I ever met them. I got a picture and a description.
Wow.
With Ukraine, I ended up being in Ukraine for so long because they do want you to meet them and spend some time.
Okay.
So it would be like 2 weeks of visiting daily, sometimes twice a day. I did have a friend who adopted, and they got to stay in a guest house on the grounds of the orphanage. So they were just there
Okay.
all the time.
Okay.
It just kind of depends on the region and what the rules are and what their availability is.
Hmm.
Um, but we would, and if the child is over 8 years old,
Hmm.
8 years or older, they have to agree. They have to write
Okay.
in writing,
Mm.
yes, I agree to be adopted.
Oh,
So they will meet you and you spend
mm.
time and you try to, you come and learn some little words in Ukrainian, and they're kind of happy to see the toys. You try to create a bond. But
Right.
then when it's time for them to go, it's really, really hard.
It's
It's
hard.
they don't understand.
Okay.
And so she was going into rages, just rages, and she would just stop on the side of the road.
Mm.
And if you left her there, and she wouldn't, just silent pillar.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that went on for a while. And one time she was screaming so hard the neighbor came because I'm in an apartment and I hear
Right.
the knock on the door, and I've got her under my arm and she's like, ah, and she's trying to pull my hair and she's pinching me and I'm holding her. But it sounds like someone's being murdered. And so the neighbor's like, you know, you tell, is everything okay? And I'm just like, I'm like, she's, and I don't know how to tell them. Clearly she's upset.
Right.
But the older kids were there and they're like, she's okay, they'd say, it's okay. Um, but
Yeah, I
they
would
did
have thought it would have been the older children that would have had more of a hard time leaving versus the youngest of the four children.
well, so Vika was 6 and Masha picked her name Samantha. So Samantha was 17. And
Mm.
normally you can't adopt anybody over 16, but she had the younger siblings. So in a group, she could come. And she was the biggest reason why we adopted them,
Oh, wow.
um, was because she's the one who said, I want a family. And
Okay.
nobody is lining up
Hmm.
I mean, three years old is considered old and waiting.
Right.
And if a 3-year old is considered old, what chance does a 17-year-old have?
Right.
And
Hard
everybody
to
thinks, well,
say.
they're almost an adult,
Right.
they'll be okay. But everybody always wants a mom. They want their mom.
Right.
And so she wanted a mom, but really she wanted her mom.
Right.
And so then that's the struggles that you have, is reconciling. They struggle so hard with, if I love you, being, am I being
Loyal to your mom.
right? I'm not being loyal to my mom if I'm
Right.
happy about being here. And it doesn't matter the reasons why they couldn't be with their mom anymore.
Right.
And it's never, anytime somebody needs a new family, it's not because good things are happening.
Right.
Something has happened that has broken this. And so I always encourage potential adoptive parents
Hmm.
to remember that uh,
Right.
something broke. It doesn't mean that something great's not happening and that you're not going to build something beautiful. But the mark of that, even in a baby, the mark of that is there.
Right.
And they have to learn how to live with that. And you have to learn how to live with that and not take it personally.
Personally to your
It's
heart.
not,
Right.
if this is this thing that came with them that they have to learn how to navigate. And it's my job, it's our job as their parents to help them do that. And also while we do it too.
Right.
So so it's really, really beautiful and it's exquisitely painful
Right.
all at the same time. All it so
Now,
it anyway, it's
I
hard.
was gonna say now international adoption. Um, I know it differs from United States. When we're adopting through foster care, there's more of a chance that if you're being a foster parent, the children may not stay with you, and they may go home, which is awfully painful. I went through that, so I know. But also, when you're doing an international adoption, do they have that chance of possibility of going back home, or when you leave with the children, they're yours?
When you leave with the children, they're yours.
Okay.
However, um, sometimes when you're in country, some things can happen, and even though you're there, I we spent 2 weeks, twice a day. We adopted a little girl named Dasha,
Mm-hmm.
but we were actually there, and for a full month, we were actually adopting a little girl named Anastasia,
Oh.
and yeah,
Hmm.
and that's a really hard thing. We visit her twice a day, every day for 2 weeks. And you have a first initial court hearing and you have a second court hearing.
Mm-hmm.
And when we went to court, I turned to my husband, I said, something is wrong here.
Oh.
And there is a politician in Ukraine that always promotes a moratorium on foreign adoption.
Mm-hmm.
And every year he got voted down. And it had just got voted down again.
Mm.
But our little girl, Anastasia, was in his town in
Okay.
the orphanage that he sponsored. And
Oh.
he was like, I can't stop all the adoptions, but you know what? I can stop this one. And he
Wow.
stepped in and got it stopped.
Wow. Okay.
And we visited her, and the next day was her 5th birthday. The last time I saw her, so we had our morning visit and we had to leave for lunch and then come back. And so we said, okay, baby, okay, Nastia, we'll be back after lunch.
Mm.
And then we never got to go back.
Never had to go back.
And we were told by our facilitator, you need to leave. You've got to leave the city. You're going to go back to Keep. We got you a train ticket. You're going to go. Honey.
I mean, you weren't in danger.
No, we were not in danger, but
you had to leave.
but we had to leave.
Oh.
They're like and the facilitators, there's nothing you can do here.
Wow.
And it's you need to go. And then it was 2 weeks. We didn't even know if they were going to give us our paperwork back. And that was quite a crisis of faith for me. Okay. Because we spent a year getting to her.
Wow.
And saying, this is my daughter. You know, it took so long to get the home study, and there was some just weird things going. Anyway, it took a year. It was a year before we got there. And really, it should have been about 6 to 9 months.
Okay.
And now I'm like, God, what is happening? What is happening? You said, this is my daughter. You told me. Mm-hmm. And he said, huh, Tracy, you're not her mother. Do you trust me? Hmm. And I had to really figure out, do I trust him? Because what he's saying is, I'm telling you, leave her here in this orphanage. Hmm. And orphanages are not nice. Right. I'm not very popular because people say, oh, my child was in a really good orphanage. And I say, well, congratulations, you found the best turd. Hmm. It's not a good place. Right. And that's an ugly analogy, but even you're in the best hellhole. Yay. You don't have, it's not a family. Right. It is not a family. And it's an institution. And an institution does not love you. Right. They're doing their best. And I've been to really great orphanages, and I've been to very, very poor orphanages. Mm-hmm. They're all doing their best, right. Usually. But the best of nothing is still nothing. Right. And so, okay, God is saying, hey, Tracy, yeah, I'm telling you, your loving arms is not where she belongs. You're not her mother. That is the hardest thing to have God tell you. And you have to believe, do I believe this or not? Do I trust you or not? And I realized I couldn't live if I didn't trust him. Correct. And now it's never a question now. I don't have any. That was in 2010. It has been 10 years, and I have never doubted my faith. It's a done deal. It is done. I don't, so that's nice.
Well, we only have a few more minutes. We have to get in. Yeah, we're down to like 4 minutes. We have got to get to the triplets.
I didn't even talk about, so you want something super fast. So then we ended up in foster care because apparently I need to be doing something to take care of kids. And our first placement was triplets. They were 6 months old. First placement, 6 months old. And so in foster care, you got to be in it for 5 minutes or forever.
Yeah.
If they only need me for 5 minutes, then they get 100% Tracy for 5 minutes. If they need me forever, then I'm in it forever. And it was 3 years. Infants are supposed to be done in a year, but there's always some reason why it's not. And can mom get it together? Can they go back to her? Sometimes they can. I know kids who got to go back home. But these kids ended up staying with me. And
this year.
And so at 50 years old, I adopted triplets who are 3, and they've got PTSD. They don't sleep all night. They have never slept all night.
Wow.
Someone screams every night. You see this? I'm so tired. I'm so tired.
Yeah, I don't know if you sent the 47-year-old picture beforehand, but yeah.
Fab and fabulous Tracy. No, she was never that great, but now this is like super haggard Tracy. We love them so much, but we didn't know. Any point they could have just gone home.
Right.
Or except that by then, when they're little babies, this is their home.
Right.
But it's hard. It's really, really hard what's best for the babies.
Right.
And sometimes what you think is best and what's the standard is all tough. But wow, I talked way too much. I'm sorry.
No, it was great information for everyone. I mean, it's an outstanding thing that God has put in your heart, and I am so happy I did not take that trip and you did.
But you didn't want like 10 kids?
No. I actually, that was my husband, and was really afraid I would bring home 10 kids. So yeah, instead you did. But you're a wonderful family. I mean, it's 13 of you now. Plus you and your husband, 15. You can't even go one place all together, which is funny, in one car. You had to take 2 cars. And now I think your oldest daughter from Ukraine, she's married, I thought, right?
Well, yeah, but now she's sort of not. She just turned 25 on the 15th.
Okay.
She's that's dissolving, but she's a CNA. She has her own place. She's working hard. She takes a different route. And so it doesn't always look to like, yay, but then you go, this is her and this is who she was going to be and who she is. She's earning every minute. She's got so much more to get through, and she's getting through it. She calls us constantly now. She never used to do that. She calls her dad almost every day.
Well, I want to appreciate you coming on the show. This topic today was Let's Talk Adoption. I have my guest, Tracy Helm. This is Janice with Why and Why Not. Like us on YouTube and Facebook. And I hope to have you on the show again and talk more about the triplets, okay?
Let's talk about foster care.
Foster care, yes. Thank you very much, Tracy. Have a nice evening, everyone. Bye-bye.